This
Okay.
call is being recorded.
Hello, everyone. This is Renee Rentmeester. I'm the creator and executive producer of the Cooking Without Looking TV show and podcast. And today I'm here with Sabra Ewing. Sabra, you're in Utah. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm in Salt Lake City.
Wonderful. Well, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
I have a degree in business management from Texas State University, and I love listening to audiobooks, watching movies, and cooking.
Aha. Hence our Cooking Without podcast. Well, we often hear, or we always hear, talk about blindness and our lives with blindness or visual impairment. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
I live alone in an apartment, and my experience has been that being blind is not the most difficult. I actually like being blind, but the accessibility barriers are the most difficult, such as inaccessible photo descriptions or a store that doesn't want to provide shopping assistance.
Well, I swear I've been doing this 20 years. You're probably the first person who has said you actually like being blind, and tell us why.
I was born blind, and it's part of my identity, part of the way that I process information. There is actually a book called Crashing Through about a man named Mike May who was blind from a young age as well. And it's a true story. He became sighted, and it did not work out the way that he thought. He couldn't actually function as a sighted person. So since he was sighted until the age of 3, I believe, even if I could become sighted, it probably wouldn't, I probably wouldn't even get as far as he did.
Really fascinating. What problems did he have as a blind person who became sighted?
He had problems recognizing objects, reading print, and even today, he is not able to do things that a sighted person would do, such as being able to drive. Even though at the time he got his surgery, the eye doctor had told him that he would have good enough vision to be able to drive.
Uh, so he really wanted to drive. He can't drive. Does he still have his sight left?
Yes, he still has it, but he still uses a guide dog, and he doesn't function the way that someone who is born sighted does.
That's really interesting. So tell us what else. What are your, I guess I'll say it like this, what are your favorite parts of blind?
Sorry, my favorite what?
Your favorite parts about being blind?
My favorite parts are listening to shapes and using echolocation. Also, I really love working with my seeing eye dog, Vivian.
Oh, Vivian. And is that Vivian in the picture that we're going to have for your podcast?
Yes,
What do you like about working with Vivian?
I love how excited she gets whenever she shows me something that's new or that she recognizes. For example, she recognizes the push button poles when you're crossing the street, and she gets very excited when she finds another one.
How long have you had Vivian, Sabra?
I've had her for about 5 years. She's 7 now.
Ah, so is she close to retirement?
I'm not sure. I hope she'll be able to work until maybe 9 or 10. At this point, she seems healthy enough, so she can still keep working.
That's really good. That's good to hear. I've got a friend right now who he'll have to retire his dog shortly, and that's probably like the third cat to retire.
Oh, that's sad. I'll be sad when Vivian has to retire.
Because explain the relationship between a blind guide dog owner and the dog.
Well, basically, you're with the dog 24 hours a day, so you do form a tight, close-knit relationship with them, and it's you might not always be with them 24 hours a day. For example, when I go biking with Wasatch Adaptive, I Vivian stays at the pavilion with the instructors, but mostly I'm with her 24 hours a day, and it's not like I can just say, "Oh, well, you're retiring then, like goodbye. I won't see you again." Like it's not that like I think of her as like someone who works for me. It's like we actually have a relationship.
And what do you like better, relationships with humans or Vivian?
I like my relationship with Vivian the best, I think.
I can totally understand that. It's just so much better. But you say that you enjoy cooking, so tell us a little bit about your cooking experiences.
I love baking the most. Um, my favorite is to bake desserts and casseroles, and I love pies and cookies a lot.
Do you like eating them or making them or both?
I like both.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So, what are some of the things you do when you're cooking? What's one of your favorite recipes?
I love hot chocolate and chocolate chip cookies.
Ooh, together?
Um, Mostly I make them separately, but they probably would be good together.
Yeah, yeah, especially coming up now. Of course, in Utah, it doesn't really get cold there, does it?
Yes, it does. It gets very cold.
Oh, it
Although
does. I didn't
the
realize that.
in the winter I go skiing with Wasatch Adaptive as well.
Is that are you saying what's app adaptive?
No, Wasatch Adaptive. Wasatch Adaptive Sports.
Ah, and tell us what that is.
It is an organization that does um, adaptive sports for disabled people like skiing, biking, and kayaking.
Ooh, that's really cool. How are you spelling that?
Um, I can't remember how to spell Wasatch, but it's the name of a city.
Okay, okay, I see, I understand. And so what sports have you partaken with them?
So far, I've done biking and skiing with them. Right now, I do biking with them every Wednesday. They had an event as well called the Summit Challenge where I biked for 25 miles. That doesn't seem that far, but it was my first year biking, and also the terrain was very mountainous.
Wow. And you weren't nervous or anything?
I wasn't nervous because I'd been biking for a while before that. Next year, I want to do the 50 mile, but I thought I should start with the 25 mile because the Summit Challenge has mountainous terrain and things that I hadn't trained with before. It's difficult to be able to find that to be able to train on. For the Summit Challenge, they blocked roadways and things like that. So
Well, how do you train for something like that, Sabra?
I was mostly training on the trail at Germania Park.
And what did you do? Do you bike a lot, or do you run? Do you have it so that you do several different types of training methods?
I mostly biked a lot. There are different muscles that are used for running versus biking, so running probably wouldn't help that much.
Right, right. What's your favorite part about the biking?
My favorite part is when it's really nice outside. I love the nice day and the sun, and I love how nice it is outside. I love working with my instructor named Ryan. I've been with the same instructor for a while now.
Oh, that's great. That's really wonderful. Yeah, there's something about being outside, and no matter what your exercise is, it's so much. I don't know about you, but I like it outside better than being in a gym.
Yes, I would not like being in a gym, and also the membership of a gym is more expensive, and I would probably never go.
Yeah, I know you and me both. I think I've been a member of a gym a couple of times, and I was good for about 6 months, and then I got a little bored with it. But I've never been bored with being outside and in running. I'm a runner, so I've never been bored with that. Just being outside and enjoying the outside air.
Also, the problem you might face with a gym is that if the machines are not accessible and you can't get a staff member to help you with them regularly.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
If I joined a gym, I don't know how I would deal with that.
Yeah, there are ADA rules that cover that, though. They're supposed to have enough space for you to get in. You're supposed to be able to use whatever adaptive equipment you use. I called for a couple of people, and those are the things they told me.
A lot of these machines now, though, have touch screens where you can't label them because you have to go through the menus and be able to read the screen.
That's actually a good point. I've tried that myself, and it's it is sort of difficult that way. So, what recipe do you have for us today?
Today, I have hot chocolate. Would that be good, or should I pick a different one?
Well, whatever one you want, Sabra, sounds good to me.
I thought hot chocolate would be good because it would be something that is simple for somebody who is just getting into cooking.
And it sort of gives you a taste, so to speak, of cooking. So,
Yes.
fire away, Sabra.
Okay. So you could either make this on the stove in the slow cooker, or you could get a smaller version and you could make it in the microwave. So on the stove, you get a large pot and you put in 2 quarts of half and half, and you turn it to medium heat and let it heat up. And you also add 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and you get a 12-ounce bag of either chocolate chips or chocolate chunks, and you put them in there and you stir it up until it melts. So that should probably take like 5 minutes or so. It depends on when you have what you have the heat on. But if you are stirring it with your spatula or a spoon, you can feel when the chocolate chips are melted. You have to keep on stirring it, and also make sure to get the bottom of the pan so that, or the bottom of the pot, so that you will not get clumps. Then when you take it off the heat, you add 1/2 tablespoon of vanilla extract, and then you stir it up, and then you pour it into mugs. And it should probably make between 6 and 8 mugs, depending on how big you like it. Oh yes, and the chocolate chips are, I forgot to mention, they're semi-sweet chocolate chips or semi-sweet chocolate chunks. And to make it in the slow cooker, you can put the chocolate, the half and half, and the salt all in there just together, and put it on high heat, high on the slow cooker setting, and then let it go for about like 4 hours. It takes longer, but then it's all it's easier because it can stay warm, and you'll know that you can take off the lid and stir it every so often. You will know that it's done because all of the chocolate will be melted. Or you can also do it in the microwave as well, but you would need to do a smaller amount. So you would do about, you could either do 2 cups of, you could make the half and half mixture ahead of time. You can add the vanilla ahead of time as well, because in the microwave, the vanilla isn't really going to cook off the way that it will on the stove or the slow cooker. So you can either do 2 cups of the half and half mixture and 3 ounces of the chocolate, or you can do 1 cup of the half and half mixture and 1.5 ounces of the chocolate. And then to avoid lumps, it's best to heat it up all together and put it in, make sure that both are the same temperature. So if the half and half mixture is cold just from the fridge, then the chocolate also needs to be cold. If the chocolate is at room temperature, then you need to bring the half and half mixture to room temperature as well. And when you do it, you should pour it in a cup that's probably 2 or 3 times bigger than it is, to make sure that you won't get any boil over. But if you just heat it up for about 1.5 to 2 minutes and then stir it, then that should be fine and you shouldn't get any boil over. And also, if you make sure that both the half and half mixture and the chocolate are the same temperature, you also shouldn't get any lumps when doing it in the microwave.
Well, that's good. Yeah, those lumps. I guess that's the downfall of a hot chocolate. So, what's interesting is I know you mentioned a little bit of salt. Is that, does that make, actually ironically make it sweeter?
Yes, it does. It enhances all of the flavors and it makes the sweetness be more noticeable.
Ah, that's what I thought. That's what I've read before. Is this a recipe you made up, or is this one you found, or have you sort of like
I
it along the
I
way?
made I made this recipe myself.
Ah, okay, okay. Did you taste a lot of hot chocolate along the way?
Yes, I did. I did try using milk, and that did not work because the chocolate taste was very pronounced, and it was also tasted really watery. And maybe if you added even more chocolate, then it would taste less watery because of the fat from the chocolate. But then the problem would be that it can almost taste too chocolatey, even if you love chocolate a lot.
I can't even imagine that, Sabra, tasting too chocolatey, but I'll take your word for it. So, what do you think about, instead of even the half and half, maybe even like the heavy cream, or is that too much?
I tried the heavy cream, and that made it too much. It's already really rich, and that made it too rich, and also it covered up the taste of the chocolate too much as well.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I thought I was sort of like tasting it in my mind and trying to figure that out. Well, what other
If
things, like if your friends were coming over, what would you prepare for them?
if they were coming over for dinner, I would probably make them chili.
Ah, And what kind of special things do you do to your chili? It seems like there's not like one chili recipe, there's like 10 trillion gazillion recipes. What are some of the things that are special about your chili?
I like to add a bit of unsweetened cocoa powder to mine.
What does that do to the flavor?
It makes it taste like a little bit richer and a little bit more earthy, but you would think that it would make it taste like a dessert, but actually it doesn't.
Oh, yeah, because it's unsweetened. So, a little bit of earthiness to it. That's interesting. How much did
Kind
you
of
say you
like
put in?
if you add mushrooms, but different. I normally put in like for a serving that would serve like 4 or 6 people, I normally put in about a tablespoon.
Ah, okay, okay. That sounds good. That sounds good. What other kind of things do you make? Do you go by the recipe? Here's one of the big questions I've often been talked about. Do you go by the recipe, or are you one of those people who like just sort of use a recipe for a framework?
Um, Depending on the recipe, sometimes I'll go by the exact recipe because I want to see what it will taste like and what the author meant it to taste like. And then after that, I will deviate from it to make it more what I like.
Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, I sort of do the same thing. With baking, that's sort of hard though, isn't it? Because it's more chemical.
Yes, baking does actually have a lot of ratios though. So if you know those, then you can actually make a recipe that is more what you would like.
Ah, by the recipe has more ratios. Tell us what you mean by that.
Like, for example, a cookie has its own ratio, a cake has its own ratio. Like the standard pound cake ratio is a pound of flour, a pound of butter, a pound of sugar, and a pound of fat. Um, but you could, most cake recipes won't follow that exact ratio because, for example, if you wanted it to be a little bit less dense, you could go back on the flour a bit.
I see. Now, Sabra, if people after this interview want to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you?
They could get a hold of me at my email at sabra1023 at gmail.com.
Okay, say that one more time.
sabra1023 at gmail.com.
Well, Sabra Ewing, I truly enjoyed our conversation today. It was really interesting when you said that you like being blind. I think that we are all conditioned to say, "Wow, she's blind," but you're like, "No, man, I like this. I love my life. I think
Yes,
that's so cool. I
I
love that."
do love being blind. What frustrates me the most is how blind people are not wanted, the accessibility challenges that blind people have, and that a blind person in this world will probably never be accepted for who they are.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the way we see blindness. Thank you for taking your time out today from Utah, Sabra Ewing.
Yes,
Thank you so much. And if you want to reach out to us, we're at www.cookingwithoutlookingtv.wordpress.com. And as we like to say, thank you for helping us change the way we see blindness. Have a great day, Sabra.
thank you.